Okay, we're going to begin by learning about the visual element of line. Line is one of the simplest visual elements, and if you think about like a baby or a toddler, the first mark that they will make will be a line. They'll pick up a crayon and make their mark. So you can make very simple lines, but you can also be very sophisticated and do very complex marks. We are going to create something a bit like this. We're going to create a grid of different types of lines and mark making, and it's going to really create a sort of line bank that you can then refer back to when you're doing a drawing. You've experimented and tried out lots of different mark making and line making techniques. So I'll post them up on the Google Classroom as well. But what you're going to do is you're going to fold your paper. I think I'll probably give you A4, but I'm going to work on A3 just for size on this video. So I'm folding it once, folding it twice, folding it a third time. So that's going to divide the paper up. Sorry about the camera shake. It's going to divide the paper up into 8 sections. So in each of these sections, I can do a different line technique. Could even go a 4th fold as well, actually. I'm thinking 16 might be good. So that's just a really easy way of you dividing your paper up into different sections. If you want, you can get a ruler and you can actually divide it up into boxes like that if you want, or you can just use the fold lines. So in each box, a bit like these ones, you're going to do lots of different line techniques in each one. So the first one maybe you could think about would be a continuous line, and it's a good idea to label it as well. Continuous line, just at the bottom of your box or at the top of your box. So a continuous line means you do not take the pencil or the pen off the paper. So you create, it's maybe like a bit of a tangle of knitting wool or spaghetti, but you create one amazing scribbly, swirly image without taking your pen or pencil off at all. That is the rule. And you can go back and you can revisit bits. You can go slowly and take your time and go round shapes, or you can overlap them and make swirls. But whatever you're doing, this is continuous line. The rule is one line. Okay? So you could go for that for as long as you want. It will progressively get darker and darker. Now the opposite of a continuous line is like a broken line. So that's what I'm going to do next. You don't have to do it in this order, but you can. So lots of broken lines will end up looking a bit like fur, or, you know, a bit kind of hairy. And the thing about this, you can keep them all going the same way, or you can start getting them to start swirling and going in different directions. So your drawing in this box might kind of start to have almost like grass in a field. You know, when the wind's blowing, it might look a bit like that, like there's a wave and a movement to it. So broken lines are great for creating texture and for creating a bit of movement. And you can experiment with making them shorter or longer or harder or softer. So you can really experiment within this box. Try doing lots of different broken lines. Okay, I'm hoping you can see that clearly enough. So in the next box I'm going to do maybe different thicknesses of line. So I'm going to call this one thick and thin. I'm drawing at a bit of an angle here. I'm just going to try and sort that out. That's better. So thick and thin, because a line, if you're using a thick tool like a marker pen or a stick of charcoal, you're going to get a thicker line. And to make this a bit more interesting, I'm going to make my lines wobble and wave through the box. So there's thick, and then gradually getting thinner. This is reminding me of an artist called Bridget Riley, who does a lot of swirling line artwork, and they are like optical illusions. They make your eyes spin a bit. They make you feel a bit dizzy sometimes when you're looking at them. And she loves playing around with different thickness and type of line. So you see I'm gradually getting thinner. Until the next one will be the thinness of that pencil. And I could keep going or go thick again. That would be quite interesting. And I'm also sort of creating white lines because the gaps in between are now becoming lines themselves. So there's ways of building up tone called cross-hatching. That's a really good line technique to do. You may know this. It's kind of in an old-fashioned illustration style. You would use a lot of line and you would build up the tone by doing the lines first one way and then the others. It's a bit like a weaving. This is like the threads on a weaving. And that's going one way and the other, but you can also go a third way and a fourth way even, and that'll get darker and darker, so you're making the lines more dense and the tone is getting darker. So you could experiment with doing different darknesses of cross-hatching in this box. You might go from dark on one corner to light on the other. Brilliant technique, especially if you're working with pencil or pen. To get away from just a line, you're building up lots of tone as well. Okay, so you can see how that would really build up some beautiful shading. And I'm playing around with it being darker on one edge and going lighter on the other. Okay. Right, what other ones could I do? I could do rough lines and smooth lines. So say I'm going to do maybe wavy lines here, and rough or ragged lines here. So in the wavy lines, it's maybe a bit like the continuous line. I'm going to keep my pencil and page for longer. But this time it's not one continuous line. I'm stopping and starting. It's up to you how close you make these go. Quite interesting to work your way up and just keep following the shape and see what happens. And the waves will sort of distort. You'll find that some bits start to go bigger and deeper curves. So lots of wavy lines could go in there. Rough lines, what you've got is, the opportunity to do really scribbly lines. The camera's probably shaking a lot. But, these marks are very different to these. All done with the same tool, on the same bit of paper, but I can draw in countless different ways. You can also do rough lines quite lightly. They don't have to be hard. They can be light and delicate as well. Sometimes it's easier to do a rough line by holding your pencil a little bit higher up rather than down here. So for control, you would hold something right down here. If you want to be a little bit rougher, you might go like that, and it lets you loosen up and make looser marks. Now, I'm not filling the boxes completely. I would like you to fill them a bit more than I am. You might do something like radiating lines, so maybe like a dandelion or a sunburst effect. And that means that all the lines are coming out from one place. Van Gogh was a very famous artist who used lots of line in his drawings and his paintings, and we'll look at his work in a bit of detail. But he did beautiful paintings of sunsets, I think. I was going to say sunrise, I think it's a sunset. And the starry, starry night, his painting of the sky there uses line to make the stars and the moon sort of swirl. So he would be a fan of this technique. So I'm going different directions. It's a bit awkward, but turn your page if that's easier for you. Don't feel you have to keep the page fixed in one position all the time. And it might sort of fade out as it gets further out. You might have it darker in the middle. Play around with what it means when you do more lines and less lines. You get different tone. So it's all about learning to create different effects with this very simple tool. Next I might do lots of little loopy lines. Almost like, there's a little bug on the page with ink on its feet and it's just running about madly on the page, leaving a wee trail. And again, you can be delicate or you can press harder. You can go over it more and more and get darker patches, or you can go lighter, let more white paper show through. So loopy, scribbly lines like that. So there's 8 I've done. I've got 8 more on this side, and you are going to do the same. You're going to fill up 16 boxes of all sorts of different lines. Here's some examples. I like the broken cross-hatching here is fantastic. Oh, using little circles is really cool to do. There was one I quite liked, like the wood effect there. And then on this page there's loads more doing dots. So your little dashed lines become so short that they become dots. Is a really good effect to do. So loads of options. So I want you to really go for it and experiment with different mark making. So you've got a really busy full sheet and you're then ready to do a line drawing using all sorts of different techniques and line. Okay, good luck.